What's up, creators? It's your boy Alex, and in today's tutorial, we're going to be covering how to create thumbnails like Omar Eltakrori. And this thumbnail style is not different from many of the podcasters that you can find on the internet today. You're going to want to include the main subject or your host, the guest. If you want to include multiple guests in this thumbnail style, you can. It really all comes down to how you layer it and put it together. With that being said, you can use this style to get multiple clients paying you $500 to $1,000 a month if you just learn this simple thumbnail format. Because at the end of the day, if you package up these thumbnails correctly, in most cases they're posting these every single week, which means they're going to need 4 to 8 thumbnails, and you can get that creator check. But first things first, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new, and if you want support, you can purchase the template that I'm going to use today in this tutorial in the first link in the description below. Without any further ado, let's hop over to Photoshop. So when we get into this thumbnail design, it's really going to come down to how you layer your project. In most cases, what you're going to be dealing with is a background, your photos in the foreground, the text is going to be layered on top of it, as well as some effects and maybe a logo or of different things. But the thing that's important to remember is that on YouTube, you don't have that much real estate. And in most cases, when people are looking at it on their phone, it's going to be super small. So you have to use the digital real estate you have to the best of your ability, because at the end of the day, your thumbnail is like the front porch of your YouTube channel. And each video is important because it's where people decide whether or not they're going to go in your house and watch the content or not. Let's go back over to Photoshop. So I'm already preloaded some things for sake of your time here today. So I got like this background image of the living room here, right? In most cases, what Omar does really well is he focuses on the face of the subject that he's talking to. Not he's talking to, but a photo of him talking, right? Or his guest talking or whatever, and emphasize like this is the expert that's on the show. So what I have here is preloaded this background because he also uses the space that he has in studio space over at Vegas. So also what I preloaded in is some photos of myself and my wife from our show. So we can use her picture here, right? So what's dope about this is that, and I've already done some things to these pictures, but for sake of that, let's delete this. All right. So let's say I just want to use this photo of her, because really there are 2 different formats you can use for these podcasting. So some are just of your host talking by themselves, they can be used, or if they're actually talking or interviewing a guest, you would have both of them facing. But I think it's important to understand both of these formats so that you can know which one to use in different situations. So in this circumstance, the first thing you want to do to the background is we want to create some depth. So, understanding some basic like photo techniques is going to help you here, because in most cases, like you don't want this background not to be blurred out and give you that depth of field as if it was a photograph that you took. And that's the beauty of having Photoshop, because it can give you the photo manipulation that you really want to use for these different thumbnails, right? So I already took and added a Gaussian blur, but you see how much better that looks just by adding that blur right here to the background, right? As you can also see, I already added like some camera raw effects to this picture, because when we took it in the kitchen, it was just off the teal or orange camera light. Well, not camera light, but the kitchen light. And so I had to go in camera raw and add some effects to really brighten this picture up, make our skin look better, make it look softer, because women like to look a certain way when they go online. But there are different things you can do with that. The other thing, her brand colors at the time, or still are, like, were pink, right? So if you wanted to have this background layer here, and you wanted to showcase some of those colors, you could always come here, find your pinks, click pink, right? Drag it under this layer, and then go up to fill and turn this down so you can kind of see that as well. Now, this isn't what Omar does, but this is just an extra step you can take if you want to highlight a brand color or whatever the case is. But typically in most cases, if you want to create that depth, what you can do is change this to black and then drop it down a little bit further, just so you see the background there, but it's not as present. Like you see it, but she's in the foreground, and that's the most important part. Now that we have our image, like I said before, you may want to add some different layer effects on here so that your adjustment layers will help the image stand out even more from the background, because even if you don't want it to be darker and you want to sit it at 100%, you still want there to be depth between these two objects, just so it just gives that blur effect that people like so much, right? The next layer I think we're missing here is text. So if we go to our text layer, let's say we use something like, I don't know, made in, change this text, change our color here to white so we can see it. I think that's another thing that's important. Like we talked about depth a few seconds ago, but I think also what's important is contrast. So if you have a dark background, if they have a dark shirt on, you want to use lighter colors so that you can see what you're actually working with. So let's just say Photoshop. This is what she was talking about. Not saying it is, but again, if we want to choose a block for this to go around, because Omar likes to do that a lot, we're going to choose a rectangle or square text block, make them to a rectangle, go here, which is like your edges here. You can do it here too. Just drag it out to make it 0, or you can go here to make it 0, and now edge out of your corners, drag the layer under where Photoshop is, go back to made in Photoshop, make this a bit bigger. And that was Command T right there to get that quick action. If I want this one to be bigger, make Photoshop bigger. With all of these, I'm using Gotham right now as my font, but maybe I want to make it bold because a lot of his fonts are bold. So I'll just, because at the end of the day, like I said, your real estate on YouTube is very like small. Like people are making very quick decisions as they're on they're searching their home pages of what they want to watch. So you want to grasp their attention first. So in doing that, you want to really make your text stand out. But some of the things that he does to make his text stand out as well is adding some drop shadows on some of these texts. So let's make sure we can see how that's being done. Okay, so you can add some drop shadows here. He does that a lot to help his text stand out. You can do that to make your box stand out. You can get a lot more control here in the back end when you hit drop shadow. So to do that again, you want to double click your layer, go down to drop shadow, and then you can control it here, you know. And so now we can see everything made in Photoshop, made in whatever. So now we got our text, we got the layer, he's standing out. Fortunately, his background is not like super light. Like he has a very rich background. But the beauty about this is though, I mean, you can use adjustment layers for really anything you want. I mean, if I wanted to just the background to how I wanted it to look, you can literally do the same thing. Like I can make it brighter if I want it to be brighter instead of a dark and moody vibe. Like I can do the same thing to the background as well. I think at this point, like you said, we're pretty much done. You just want to add some effects to really bring it home. So like here, from what I did on her thumbnails before, we got like some nice boxes down here. If I wanted to match colors here, go here. And like, let's say I wanted to put this behind the picture of her, you know, box in the image a bit, possibly. Add some, add some top and bottom borders. That's what you wanted to do. You can also add some different like flares, which we can add these back in the effects panel. You can do multiple effects boxes too. I've just really been on organization in terms of my files, just so I can like really see what I got going on. So I think that's super important. And then like if you want to add some different flares to sell it home, and this can work different ways. So like right now we can see everything, but let's say we couldn't. So you want to use a black. You can do this a few different ways though. Like if you want to go to the gradient tool, open up, already got a layer open. Now I'm gonna just drag up on this. Now we got this gradient going from the bottom. We can drag under our photo. Now it gives that effect like, okay, I can see her, I can see this and read, but look at the difference. Like it really kind of blends everything together and brings it home. If I want to do a different one, there's another way to do it. is if you just go up here, hit B on your keyboard or hit the brush key. If you have a very soft brush, which means it's not hardness is not on 100, the hardness is on 0. No matter what your size is now, if I wanted to change this to pink to sell the effect or the branding or whatever, and I wanted to go off to the side just so it's like a subtle flare, and I click, now we get a dope pink flare that you can do for both sides if you want to do both sides, which I think is dope. And as you turn it off, like, just look at those layers, y'all. Like, look how much of a difference like that made, like just having those layers on. So right now you go from this, like, okay, I'm done, it's basic. When you start adding effects to it, now we're really bringing it home and it's starting to look unique. And I think the final step here is adding some branding. So if you go in and add some branding, we're going to add in her logo here at the top corner. And I know some people don't do this. What I don't suggest you do is put anything in this bottom right-hand corner, because in YouTube, they're going to put the time code there, like how long the video is. So don't put anything here. But if you want to put a logo or something in this corner or whatever the case is, you can do that as well. You know, some people put, whether it's a full episode icon or something, because they're posting podcasts, you can do that as well. But that's one variation, right? So now let's talk about what I would do if there are two people. So we're just going to duplicate by hitting Command J on this artboard over. So now we got 2. What I would do now is, okay, we got 1, we got 2. Let's turn our text layer off. We got some flares and stuff on. So we kind of already did a lot of this work. But now let's introduce another subject. So I'm going to turn off some of these things I already got on here. As you can see, I already did a levels adjustment layer, kind of get it to go across. So as you can see, in this situation, you're probably going to kill the logo because it's going to look weird if you was to include a logo too, right? So now for balance and composition, I'm going to drag this really wherever I want it to be, but you want the faces to be about the same size so they can be equal in proportion. You don't want one person's head to be way bigger than the other one. It's just going to look weird. So when you drag this over, they're about in the same proportions. What Omar and his team do a great job of is like maybe putting people behind each other so you can see like their reactions or whatever the case is, and then maybe centering the image or scaling them up so they're larger on the screen to get an authority, and then just place them here in the center. I feel like she's just a little bit too big here, but I don't know. Hard to tell. Yeah, but after that, again, it's just, okay, now I got my text layer and I'm gonna put it in front. And that's really all he does, right? But the one thing that's missing here is you all can see, now I see her hand, I see my body here at the bottom. And I think what we want to do to make that more legible is to introduce that gradient again. But this time, when we think about the layers, the gradient needs to go above the photo layer, right? Because now it makes text more legible versus it being so close and getting muddy with the photos behind it. So as you can see before, you can see after, we still got space here for the time code. If I want to add the logo back, it still fits in the corner based off how I proportionally put it. We got our text layer here, and we can change this to whatever we want. But everything looks clean now. So whether you got a variation of the right-hand side, or left-hand side in this case, which is one person, but you could do the same thing on this side to reverse it. Or with the 2 guest thing on the show, which is just an easy, simple to use. You can change the fonts to whatever you want them to be. I don't know. To America for the K. I'm just trying to make something up. We went to, so just show you, like, you can really change this up, like whatever you wanted to talk about, like you can fit whatever you want. My rule of thumb is just making sure that the text is, everything's aligned. You have good composition. You got, like, this is somewhat, which I might need to make some small adjustments here, but for the most part, like, your text is centered. If you wanted to put like an arrow down here or something to point at it again and emphasize it, cool. But you have great composition, like
person on the right, person on the left, space in the middle, space over here. I'll put my logo. You don't have to put anything to match that over here. And your text is just well centered in the middle to where it's not, just looks off-putting. So, and the composition is super important. And just what that means, just how you lay out your imagery, your text, your background. The look and tone and feel of your graphic or your thumbnail at all times just looks balanced. And that's it.
Yo, creators, man, I hope this tutorial was helpful. I've used this same format and many others like it, using Photoshop to make thousands of dollars from the clients and my full-time job working with Anthony O'Neill to create thumbnails just like this. So if you thought this was helpful, make sure you hit the subscribe button, the like button, and comment below what other tutorials you want us to cover on this channel. And remember, go out there and create and get your piece of the creator economy. Peace.